Holiday presents, in the red corner, the undisputed, undefeated Weed Whacker Guy. Champion of hurling grass and pollen everywhere. And in the blue corner, the challenger, extra strength Holiday. Eye drops that work all day to prevent the release of histamines that cause itchy allergy eyes. And the winner by knockout is Holiday. Holiday, bring it on.
It's The Other Side of Midnight with Frank Morano.
Well, this is The Other Side of Midnight. I'm Frank Morano. Speaking of trends, which we were talking about with the changes in middle-class dining a minute ago, there has been an explosion of interest in pickleball. I'm going to be very honest. 5 years ago, I don't think I could have told you what pickleball was. And then, really, I think it was during the pandemic that I first had some knowledge of something called pickleball existing. But I really wasn't even clear what it was. And then my perception was that it was a game for bored rich people. And then I don't know what happened. You know, it's kind of like Malcolm Gladwell wrote that book, Outliers, a few years ago. And he talked about how trends happen. I think that was the book, Outliers. Might have been, oh, no, it was The Tipping Point. The Tipping Point, that's it. Love Malcolm Gladwell. So he wrote that book, The Tipping Point, where he talks about how things just reach a tipping point and then suddenly they're everywhere. That's how I feel it was with pickleball. And I've played it a few times. It is a remarkable amount of fun. And there is such a demand for pickleball courts everywhere. People are playing. There's some tension between the tennis players and the pickleball players, although some people do both. It's a great way to get outdoors. It's a great way to stay in shape. And it's something that everybody can do. Whether you're 9 years old or you're 80 years old, you can have a lot of fun with it. And you can have 80-year-olds playing with 9-year-olds. It's wonderful. It's a wonderful game. And as a big ping pong player myself, it's simple, relatively simple to play. And it's fun. It's fun. And I only wish I got to play it more often. So Brandon Martinez is an avid pickleball player in his own right, and he's a coach at something called Gotham Pickleball in New York City, which we're going to tell you about in a moment. Brandon, thank you so much for joining us on the radio. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
So, are you hip to how pickleball got its name? It seems like an odd name for a sport that doesn't have anything to do with anything cucumber related.
There's kind of the original story was that it was three guys out in Bainbridge, Washington, and they kind of brought together different pieces of different sports. It's the same size as a badminton court, but obviously, like you said, Frank, there's parts of ping pong, there's parts of tennis. But the old story was that Pickles was the name of one of the guy's dogs, and they just called it off after his dog. The true story that's kind of come out recently, a little more complicated, but there's a lot of rowboating and things like that out there. A lot of guys that are out there, kind of rowing and things like that. And so pickle boats, I guess, are pieces of or guys that are coming from different parts of the boat, kind of coming together. And so that's where they kind of took the idea from. Whereas I guess pickle boats are different parts of boating. Pickleball was different parts of different racket sports, basically. So a little more complicated, I guess, if you're not from that area. Like, I'm not exactly familiar with that, but that's the true story of where the name comes from.
So I see that it was invented, at least it's listed as having been invented in 1965. From what your research tells you, is that in fact accurate?
Yeah, it's pretty fascinating when you meet a bunch of different people who've actually been playing the sport, let's say, since high school or earlier on. Invented in 1965. And then there's actually a period in the 80s where one of the guys went around to all these sort sort of like PE conventions where there's, a bunch of like athletic directors from high schools, would go to these little conventions and try and find new activities for their schools. And so kind of along the West Coast and then different parts of the East Coast, there are people who've actually been playing the sport. Obviously if you're from Washington, maybe even longer, but definitely been some friends of mine who've been playing since, high school in the 80s, 90s, even 2000s, things like that as well.
30 minutes after the hour, this is The Other Side of Midnight. We're talking pickleball, and Brandon Martinez is an avid pickleball player and a pickleball coach at Gotham Pickleball in New York City, which we're going to tell you about in just a moment. Brandon, how long have you been playing?
I've been playing for about 2.5 years, so not quite the earliest phase like you were talking about, Frank, kind of post-COVID, but kind of the wave after that as everybody kind of came back from, essentially you were definitely right there, Frank. A lot of people kind of, went home, or back wherever they're from kind of during COVID, being with family. A lot of, older people like you're talking about were kind of playing and then, brought it back, to their cities, kind of from there. So that's part of that next wave of, seeing all these people, same as you. I was a tennis player, and so played a lot of tennis during COVID. Great, safe way to kind of catch up with friends. And then, when everybody went back to real life, suddenly I had nobody to play tennis with anymore. So I thought, let's give pickleball a try. And, whereas it's kind of hard to find people at your level, finding a court, all that kind of stuff to play tennis, there's literally always somebody playing pickleball. So that was about 2.5 years ago, and I literally haven't looked back since then.
That's terrific. So, do we know who for sure invented pickleball?
Forget their names, but yeah, it's a set of guys. They're out in Bainbridge, Washington, is the birthplace of pickleball.
Gotcha. Okay. And for people that have never played the sport before, how does it work?
You described being, a ping pong or table tennis player. That's kind of what it feels like the first time you play. It's kind of like standing on top of a ping pong table, basically. So there's, serve and return like you would have in other racket sports. I think the big difference with pickleball is that it's all about sort of getting up to the net area, or what we call the kitchen or the non-volley zone, and really sort of playing it's more a game of strategy, honestly, than tennis. I tell my players all the time, once you realize the game is more chess than tennis, that's when you've really started to level up in the game. So a lot of people like to come in, especially right now, we've got a lot of tennis players coming in, kind of just smashing the ball at one another. And while that's super fun, I think it's much more interesting and maybe even a little devious to kind of maneuver your opponents around, forcing them to kind of hit up on the ball either from their backhand or hitting it at their feet. That way you can really kind of smash the ball down, and but you've really kind of tricked them into hitting a shot that they don't want to hit, basically.
And tell me about why do you think it took off the way it did? Because it almost seems, and we cover a lot of conspiracy theories on the show, it almost seems like there was something, like some sort of outside force, some sort of big pickleball money that was getting involved with this, that was some sort of reason beyond what we're seeing that meets the eye that made it take off this way. Why did it explode so quickly?
I think that like I said, I think the original wave was really a lot of people had kind of gone back to be with their families during COVID. And then when they came back to, the bigger cities, now there's a much younger population really playing the sport. I think that the fastest growing demographic right now is actually sort of in the 18 to 43 sort of demographic. So, much younger than your typical 70 and 80-year-olds as you would kind of have seen playing the sport sort of before. So, and like you said at the top, Frank, as well, it's, anybody from 8 to 80 can really play the sport. There's a really low barrier of entry, but then, kind of like I was alluding to get better actually does take quite a bit of work, quite a bit of practice. I mean, it's actually hard to hit soft is what we tell our players all the time. So, easy to hop in, have some fun, run around, get a good amount of exercise with some friends, feel social, all the things I think that we were especially craving after COVID. And then, But then you're right. There definitely was. People saw there was an opportunity there. Sort of where the sport is at right now is there's a huge, massive growth spurt that's happening. But it's sort of like, building the plane as it's taking off, right? There's a lot of infrastructure from our overall rating system to the professional side of the sport that really is still very nascent, very, very early, that is, trying to figure itself out. So there's just a massive, I really love the rec side of the sport. I think that recreational play and, not necessarily the professional side is really what's driving the sport. And there's a good amount of money that has to be invested into that. And I think that that's where, some of our VC communities and things like that are definitely propping it up and driving it up, seeing that there is an opportunity to really grow this out. I think sports overall in general, like people are just really craving, America is getting a little bit healthier. So there is a lot of activity that's happening that's kind of driving any sport that's getting people back outside. I mean, look at women's sports and soccer. It's just really, really taking off right now.
If folks are just tuning in, this is The Other Side of Midnight. I'm Frank Morano. We are talking with Brandon Martinez, avid pickleball player and coach at Gotham Pickleball. We're going to tell you about Gotham Pickleball in just a minute. Is it relatively easy for most people to find a pickleball court near them?
Talk. I think that, that's actually how a lot of these communities start is that you're just kind of walking around in your neighborhood, or maybe you hear the, kind of talk back and forth as the ball's kind of being hit around on people's paddles, and maybe you're curious. And honestly, we have so many people. I kind of started in Bed-Stuy in Brooklyn, and we would have so many people just walk up and say, hey, I've played a couple times, or, oh, this is cool. How do I join? And just very, very, very friendly community. So you definitely can see people just kind of walking around. We kind of joke in New York City, we'll chalk up or we'll tape up a court pretty much anywhere where there's an open, outdoor space, basically. But now, because there's so many players in the city, I think that's where indoor facilities like Gotham and others sort of come in, is that you're either looking to get better because you're looking for better players. And when you're outdoors, it's open play. You get kind of people from all walks of life. And, I think especially players as you get better, you're looking to play sort of quote unquote like the right way, not necessarily just having people kind of smash the ball at you all the time. So, yeah, I think that's what's cool about New York right now and playing pickleball, is that we have a lot of outdoor spaces where you can go play, but also there's great spaces indoors with really great coaches and programming that will help you kind of get better at the game as well.
My cat Freddie loves to be brushed and cuddled. But stirring up his cat allergens meant sneezing and itchy eyes. Then I found Purina One Live Clear. It's cat food that reduced the major allergen and my suffering in as little as 21 days. Now, we feel closer than ever. If you have issues with cat allergens, you really need to try Purina One Live Clear.
Try new Purina One Live Clear today. Purina One, a difference from day one.
Here at the Almond Joy Factory, where tropical vibes abound, we use soft, fresh-tasting coconut.
The crunchiest almonds and delicious chocolate candy.
Ah, but do you know what our most important ingredient is? Sometimes you feel like a nut.
Sometimes you don't.
Almond Joy's got nuts and something even way better than that. Yes, Almond Joy is made with almonds and joy.
How does PwC take your company to the leading edge? They bring the sharpest minds in tech to your team, so you can bring the ideas that will transform your business. They're passionate about your industry, so you can walk into any room with every advantage. And they're with you every step of the way, so you can know you're headed in the right direction. PwC builds for what's next, so you can get there now. Get started at pwc.com/us/leading edge.
This episode is brought to you by Loom by Atlassian. Are you feeling stuck at work? Get your team unstuck with Loom video messaging and move work forward. Use Loom to simultaneously record both your screen and yourself to share a quick update, provide feedback, train a colleague, and everything in between. Plus, add Loom AI to your meetings for instant written notes and recordings. Try Loom today at Loom.com. That's LOOM.com.
Gotcha. I watch ESPN occasionally, and most of the sports on ESPN I can never see myself playing nearly as well as the people that I'm watching. I watch a professional football game. I'm in awe of what they're able to do, how they can kick, how they can throw, how they can run, how they can catch. You watch a professional baseball game, I can't imagine hitting a ball, 400 feet. I can't imagine making a diving catch the way a major league outfielder does. You watch professional hockey, I can't even imagine skating. Pickleball is the only sport that's on ESPN that I watch it, and I realize this is probably a misperception on my part, but I'm just going to share with the audience that this is my view of it. I watch pickleball, even though I've played only 5 times in my life, and I watch these guys that are some of probably the best pickleball players around, and I said, it looks like I could do that. I feel like I could do that exactly as well as these pros that are playing it. Is pickleball one of those sports where somebody that's just a regular rank and file player can get to the point where they can be almost as good as one of these pros that they see on ESPN in a relatively short time?
Not even remotely close. I think
so straighten me out. Why does it look like that?
Yeah, I think that's again, the beauty of the sport is that, anybody can hop on a court. And, we have a ranking system or a rating system. The primary one that most people use is called DUPR, Dynamic Universal Pickleball Rating System, just like you would in tennis, right, where you've got a scale that kind of goes from 0, mostly 2-0 is really like you can just pick up a paddle, up to 7-0 is a top pros. Some of the men's pros are playing at a 7-0. I play at a 4-0 level, and it has taken me a long time to get to 4-0. As you get higher up than that, we have very, very, very few 5-0s actually in the city, and I would say even around the country. So it just gets harder and harder. Most people kind of get stuck at the 3-0 to 3-5 level, just broadly intermediate, right? So you can come in, you can drive the ball, but most of your balls are going out. I would say that I would challenge you to watch those clips a little more carefully and see the precision that really goes into the placement of the ball, like to maintain a rally. I mean, not only the consistency of getting the ball back over in a spot where you can't just jump on it or attack the ball, but rather, I think that most intermediates are just rushing, right? They're just constantly ready to just win the point, like crush the ball as quickly and as hard as they possibly can. And that's not the sport. The sport is about actually hitting softly, taking your time, maneuvering your opponents around. And most players just don't have the patience for it, honestly, more than anything. Again, the consistency takes a while to do it, but the patience is really part of the hardest part of pickleball.
So if someone's listening, Brandon, and they're intrigued, they want to start playing pickleball, and they've never played before, they have no idea how to begin. How do they begin? What's the best way for someone to get started?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, there's lots of different ways. I mean, again, great part about the sport, right? You can definitely just walk up to a court, and I guarantee if you see some people out there playing and you say, like, hey, I've never played before, but I'm interested, I guarantee they're probably going to welcome you into the fold. However, most people are pretty intimidated by kind of doing that, especially as we get older. It's hard to just make new friends. So come on out to Gotham or one of these other great facilities we have around the city. Sign up for an intro class. Come on in, see what's different about the sport. I love teaching intro classes and asking players all the time, especially because I teach a lot of 9 a.m. classes on a Saturday or Sunday. So what brought you in? Why are you here at 9 a.m. on a Saturday, especially, when we first opened in the middle of winter? Like, what brought you out to want to play pickleball? And the answer is always different for a lot of different people. Some people are, have maybe looking to get active again. Some people have, they're pickleball curious at that point. But an intro class is a really great way to kind of learn the proper way of playing. Again, not just smashing the ball at everyone. I'm sure you've seen there's definitely some injuries and things like that are happening. And that's because the courts are pretty small. And so you do need to learn how to play properly if you really want to, one, level up, and two, not injure everyone around you. But these intro classes are a great way to come out and meet other players that are at your level as well. We have a lot of players, I'd say, from Queens. We're in Long Island City, so you get to meet people in your area. But then we have a lot of people coming out from Manhattan as well, as there's just not as many courts out in the city. So go on out to a facility, sign up for an intro class, meet players at your level, meet some great coaches who are going to help you continue on your pickleball journey as well.
So for listeners in the New York area, Brandon, explain to us, what is Gotham Pickleball? What do you do there? What goes on there? How do people get involved? What's it all about?
We're really cool. We're an autonomous facility, which means that when you sign up, whether it's for programming or you rent a court privately, you're able to just come and go as you please. So we don't always have staff there, though we do run a lot of programming. So there often is a coach or David, the owner, will be there quite frequently as well, playing and just hanging out. But we're the only first and only indoor pickleball venue that's available 24/7 around the clock. So if you want to come in at 5 a.m, 4 a.m. right now, though we typically give our lighting a rest between 1 and 5 and 1 o'clock and 5 o'clock in the morning. If you really want to come in by request, we will open the venue up for you. Really, we don't even have to do anything. We just have to make it available and kind of reset our lighting for you to come in. But we're a very modern, therefore state-of-the-art pickleball club. We've got 4 full-size, cushioned, climate-controlled pickleball courts. Really sort of just the best conditions you can hope for while playing. Again, I love playing anywhere. I have my paddle. I will travel and go anywhere. But these days I don't love playing outdoors as much. There's wind. I mean, gosh, it's been crazy weather lately. Yep. So it's windy. It's rainy, especially in New York City, because we are just popping up everywhere. There's leaves on the ground. There's pebbles on the ground. There's mice on the ground, whatever. I'd rather just play in a nice facility indoors with some good players, with some friends of mine. That's really what I'm looking for. And
in terms, it's going to be year round, winter, spring, summer, and fall.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, well, it's certainly taking the nation by storm. If people want to check out Gotham Pickleball, what's the best way for them to do that?
Absolutely. We've got a website, gotham-pickleball.com. All the info that you need is going to be right there. We do also have an app, which is really easy to set up as well. Reserve a court, invite your friends. Like I said, that's what gets you in the door. Book coaches, really everything you can wish to do is going to be either available through that app or on the website. Again, all the info is going to be right there for you.
Terrific. Well. Brandon, great talking to you. Maybe I'll see you at Gotham sooner rather than later.
We'd love to have you out, Frank. I'll show you all the ways in which the higher levels of pickleball get much more advanced than maybe what you think you've seen on ESPN.
Outstanding, Brandon. Hopefully you can give me a tip or two so I could beat my friends. Thank you.
Love it. Thanks, Frank. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. Thank you. All right, 646-720-0635. That's 646-720-0635. David had called in earlier on the autism discussion. David, thanks for your patience. What did you want to say?
Oh, well, and good morning again.
Morning.
One thing about your previous interview with the pickleball guy, I wish, I know this isn't a normal question, but I wish you could have asked him if blind people can play. It sounded kind of interesting.
Oh, and, that is interesting. I'm sorry. I wouldn't have even thought of it. But that is a good question.
Maybe I'll give them a call. I'll look them up in the...
there you go. Do that. Report back to us. That's good.
Okay. All right, so my comment has to do with this time frame that Bobby Jr. announced for announcing the results of a study. Now, to be clear, the scientific community and the medical community has been investigating this for decades. This guy just came into office, and he claims they're going to have an answer by September. Doesn't that sound a little bit fishy to you, Frank? Let's be honest. Bobby Jr. has already made up his mind about what causes autism. He appointed someone to oversee this study who is a known anti-vaccine conspiracy theorist, and you can bet dollars to donuts in September they're going to say it's vaccines.
And then what then happens? Do you think they're going to use that to get rid of certain vaccines? What then happens? Let's say your theory is correct.
Okay, I don't think they can actually get rid of vaccines. Right. At least I hope they can't. But in my opinion, they can do a lot more damage. If they make a false association with the force of the government behind it, saying that vaccines are causing autism, then people will not have their children get vaccinated. And that is the dangerous part, because as we've seen in Texas and New Mexico recently with measles, this can have life-altering consequences. And that's the frightening part about all this. Because, listen, I understand if you don't want to take a vaccine, that's fine. This is a free country. But don't try to make it so that other people can't get it, or that people will be given false information and that children will be harmed. Because that's what I'm worried about. I'm worried about children being harmed and people with chronic diseases being harmed. Okay? And one last thing, please. And I know that you sometimes have people on who have the same theories about vaccines. The important thing to remember about all of this, in the end, is that vaccines have been proven safe and effective. I know that sometimes there are side effects and consequences, but those outweigh the risk of actually getting the disease, again, as we've seen with the latest measles epidemic. Thank you.
David, thank you. Have a good weekend. Appreciate that. 646-720-0635. 646-720-0635. Neil is in Baltimore. Hi, Neil.
Oh, good morning, Frank. Wishing you a wonderful weekend, you and your family.
Thank you very much. You too.
It's rare to follow Dave from the BDB, so
exactly.
Happy to do that. So in high school, 1978, Frank, I graduated, and we played a game called floor 10. It was floor 10 ping pong. So it had a court just on a basketball court, and they would set a net up that was maybe 2 foot high off the ground, but you would have ping pong paddles and ping pong balls, and it was wild. I tell you, it was a wild game, and it just brought that back to me when you're talking about pickleball.
Have you played pickleball?
I have played once, and I played tennis in high school and squash in college. So there's a lot of great racket sports, and I just remembered playing that game in high school and being fascinated and wanted to stay after school with a couple of my friends who were avid ping pong players.
Yeah, and did you find that it was similar to that game that you invented? Well, not you invented, but that you played when you were in high school?
The pickleball?
Yeah.
Is it the same? No, it's a very different game. It's a lot faster with a ping pong ball, as you know, and you would be able to smash it and still be able to smash it back. So it was a real, I don't know.
Well, that
it was
sounds
a kick.
fun, too. Yeah.
Yeah, it was fun because the ball would skip a lot and so forth.
Yeah, I bet. Neil, thank you. Have a good weekend.
Yep. You too.
Appreciate it. 646-720-0635. Sandra is in New Jersey. Hi, Sandra.
Oh, good morning, Frank.
Morning.
Frank, I was wondering, when Donald Trump almost got assassinated, but he didn't, and he chose to continue on with his pursuit. Would you be the same way, or would you maybe say, you know what, this is not for me? I'm gonna call it a day and go back to just doing whatever else I do. Would you have the courage to continue like he did? I know I wouldn't.
I'd like to think so. I mean, I guess that's one of those things where you never know until you're in that position. But yeah, I'd like to think that that would motivate me more than ever to pursue a vision for the country. So I'd like to think I would have handled it exactly the same way that Trump did. Sandra, thank you. 646-720-0635. We're going to do 15 seconds of fame in the moment. You get to comment on whatever you like, a question, a comment, a thought, something, rhetorical, whatever, for 15 seconds. All you have to do is dial 1-646-720-0635, 646-720-0635. This is The Other Side of Midnight. Straight ahead.